If you watched any of my previous videos, you know my position on hiring as a response to call volume. It treats the symptom. The queue shortens for a few weeks, then it fills back up. The underlying cause hasn't changed. But knowing that hiring isn't the answer doesn't tell you what is. And that's the gap I want to fill in this video. What I'm going to give you is a 4-step framework to reducing missed calls, especially a structured approach that addresses the causes rather than the symptom. None of the 4 steps require adding headcount. Some of them will reduce your call volume before you've changed anything else about your staffing. This is the kind of work I do with hotel groups, healthcare practices, and property developers. The sequence matters, each step built on the one before it. Let's go through them. The 4 steps are: Step 1. Audit your call composition. Understand what's actually in your call volume before you try to change it. Step 2. Reduce avoidable contact. Identify and close the upstream gaps that are generating calls that shouldn't need to happen. Step 3. Separate coverage from headcount. Extend your availability in the gaps without adding permanent staff. Step 4. Measure resolution, not handle rate. Change the metric so that you're tracking what matters, not what easy to count. Each of these is a meaningful intervention on its own. Together, they address the call volume problem at the level that actually exists, which is structural, not numerical. The most common mistake organizations make when trying to fix a call handling problem is jumping to solutions before understanding the problem. You know you have too many missed calls. You don't necessarily know why. And the why matters because different causes require different responses. An audit of your call composition means systematically categorizing a sample of your inbound calls by reason. Not by outcome, by reason. Why did this person call? The categories you're looking for: new inquiries, first contact from potential customer or patient who want to initiate a relationship. In hospitality, this is a booking inquiry. In property, it's a viewing request. In healthcare, a new appointment. Existing customer queries, questions, updates, follow-ups from people already in your system. Often routine. Appointment confirmation, booking modification, account question. Avoidable contacts. Calls that exist because something earlier in your process failed. A confirmation that didn't arrive, a result that wasn't communicated, a callback that was promised and didn't happen. The call is contacting you to compensate for the gap elsewhere. Escalations. Complex or urgent situations just generally require human judgment and experience. When you run this audit, even on a sample of 50 calls, the distribution is usually surprising. In healthcare setting, avoidable contacts is consistently 40% or more of total value. In hospitality and property, it tends to be lower but still significant, typically 20 to 30%. The reason this matters: avoidable contact doesn't require more staff to handle. It requires fewer gaps upstream. Every avoidable call you eliminate is a call nobody has to answer. The reduction in missed calls from closing upstream gaps typically exceed anything achievable through hiring. How to run the audit: listen to or review a sample of calls. Assign each call to a category. Calculate the distribution, then the distribution tells you where to focus. If you don't have call recordings, you can run a simpler version by having your team log call reasons merely for a week. It's less precise, but it gives you direction data. Once you know what percentage of your call volume is avoidable, you can start closing the gaps that generate it. The process here is: for each category of avoidable contact, identify the upstream failure that causes it and fix the failure rather than the call. Some common examples by vertical. In healthcare, patients calling to confirm appointments they should have received a confirmation for. Fix: reliable automated confirmation that goes out when the appointment is booked and again 24 hours before. The call to confirm is no longer necessary because the confirmation already happened. In practices that implement this well, appointment confirmation calls drop by 60 to 80%. In hospitality, the example: guests calling to ask about check-in times, room availability, or amenities that are on the website but not easy findable. Fix: a proactive pre-arrival communication, an email or message that answers the question guests reliably ask before calling. For many properties, this eliminates a meaningful category of inbound calls entirely. In property, applicants calling to chase the status of the viewing they've requested. Fix: an automatic status update when the viewing is confirmed or rescheduled, so the caller doesn't need to chase. The call to just check in if my viewing is confirmed disappears. This pattern is consistent. There is a call that should never exist. This is an upstream gap that causes it, and this is a process changes that closes this gap. The call doesn't get answered, it doesn't need to happen. A few important points on this step. First, not all avoidable contacts is a low complexity. Some of it looks like a straightforward fix and turns out to be more involved. Start with the highest volume, most repeatable categories, those that gives fastest return. Second, reducing avoidable contact has a compounding effect. Every call eliminated reduces the queue for the calls that do need to happen. Your existing team now has more capacity for the general inquiries without a single hire. Third, track it. After implementing each fix, measure whether the relevant call category has reduced. And if it hasn't, the fix isn't landing. Either the process change isn't being followed or the root cause was something different from what you thought it was. Once you've reduced avoidable contact, you have a clear picture of general demand, the calls that actually need to happen. New inquiries, complex queries, escalations. The next question is, when are those calls coming in and who is available to handle them? For most organizations, the honest answer is that coverage tracks staff availability and staff availability tracks business hours. The general demand, especially for new inquiries, doesn't track business hours. It's distributed across evening, weekends, and early mornings. Step 3 is about extending coverage into those gaps without extending your permanent headcount. There are several ways to do this. And the right approach depends on your call composition, your volume, and your operation. For avoidable contact that has been reduced but not eliminated, proactive outreach works. Instead of waiting for the call to come in the next morning, sending a message the evening before, means the call doesn't happen at all. For new inquiries, after hours window, this is where the coverage question is most accurate. A high-intent caller at 7 p.m. needs a response that can take a booking, answer a question, progress an inquiry. Options here range from on-call arrangement for small operations to AI-handled calls for higher volume or more predictable call types. The key principle in step 3. Coverage is not the same as headcount. Coverage means a caller with a general need can reach something or someone that can actually help them. That definition is meant in different ways for different volumes and call types. But the starting point is treating coverage as a design question, not a staffing question. For the after-hours gap specifically, I'd point you to a video I've linked below. It shows what a handled call in that window actually looks like in practice. That gives you a concrete reference point for what coverage without a night receptionist can actually mean. The fourth step is a metric change, and it's the one that holds everything else together. Most call operations measure handle rate. How many calls did we take? How fast did we handle them? What's the queue length? Those are all operational metrics. They tell you whether calls are being processed. They don't tell you whether the calls are being resolved. The call that ends in 3 minutes with a resolution looks identical in handle rate terms to a call that ends in 3 minutes because the agent said, "I'll call you back," and didn't. Both are handled, only one produced an outcome. This is why avoidable contacts keep recruiting even after you try to address it. The metric that exists doesn't track whether the actions that prevented the callback was taken. Resolution rate. The percentage of calls that result in a completed outcome with no callback needed for the same caller on the same issue is the metric that actually reflects whether your call operation is working. Building this metric isn't always simple. It requires either call recording review, CRM tagging, or a follow-up process that checks whether the issue stayed closed. But even a rough version of this metric tracked over time tells you more about the health of your call operation than handle rates alone. Once you have it, you can use it at each of the previous steps. Is the after-hours coverage you put in place producing resolutions or just contact? A voicemail system handles calls, but as the resolution rate is near zero, a coverage model that actually resolves the inquiry should show up in the metric. Resolution rate is a feedback loop the other 3 steps need to be accountable to. You audit your call composition and find that 30% of your volume is avoidable. You close the upstream gaps, confirmation processes, proactive communication, status updates. That 30% drops significantly. Your team now has meaningful additional capacity without a single hire. The calls that remain are predominantly general demand. You look at when those calls arrive and find that after hours is the window with the most new inquiries and the most coverage. You design coverage for that window, not a permanent hire, but something that can respond to a 7 p.m. caller with a complete answer. You change your measurement from handle rates to resolution rate. Now you can see whether each intervention is actually working, not just whether the calls are being processed, but whether they're being completed. The cycle repeats. Every quarter, another audit, another set of gaps closed, another improvement to coverage model. This is how you reduce missed calls without adding headcount. Not by working harder with the same structure, by changing the structure. 4 steps. 1. Audit your call composition. Know what is in your volume before you try to change it. The distribution, especially the proportion of avoidable contact, changing everything that follows. 2. Reduce avoidable contact. For every category of calls that should never happen, find the upstream gap and close it. The call you eliminate is better than the call you handle. 3. Separate coverage from headcount. Coverage means a general caller can reach a complete answer. That is a design question, not a stuffing one, and the answer looks different after hours than during the day. 4. Measure resolution, not handle rates. The feedback loop that holds the other 3 steps accountable. If you want to see step 3 in practice, especially what after hours coverage looks like when it's built around resolution rather than deflection, I've linked the video below. It is a real call, no scripts, and it makes concept concrete. One question before you go. Which of these 4 steps is further from where your operation currently is? Is it the audit? Do you generally not know your call composition? Or is it the measurement? Does the resolution rate not exist as a metric anywhere in your system? Drop it in the comments below. Subscribe to my channel for more on this. Thank you so much and goodbye.